Welcome to Forbidden Planet TV. I'm Andrew Sumner, and I'm very pleased to be joined by the one, the only, Adalyn Grace. How are you, mate?
Hi. I am great. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well indeed. Particularly now that I'm chatting with you. You are, of course, the author of the All the Stars and Teeth duology. Yeah,
Mhm.
which I was saying to you off camera, our head book buyer Laura Dodd, the mighty Laura Jane Dodd, absolutely loves that duology, and we're such big fans of yours that we want to talk about your new book, which you can anybody watching this can buy from the links attached to our conversation, which is Belladonna. So, mate,
Yes.
what can you tell me about Belladonna?
Yes, I am so excited that it's finally out in the world. I like to pitch Belladonna as like a gothic infused romantic murder mystery, basically kind of a spooky Bridgerton meets the mystery of Knives Out. And it is about a girl who can see spirits and who has to team up with Death himself in order to solve the mystery of Thorn Grove Manor, this very creepy, eerie, gothic Victorian manor. It's so much fun. It's a love interest, it's a story about the love interest where he is Death himself. And yeah, it's just spooky, it's romantic, and it's as much of a romance as it is a murder mystery.
Now, I can see from your brilliant pitch slash intro that you've spent a lot of time thinking about this beautiful high concept that you've created. But where did the inspiration for your protagonist's relationship, very complex relationship with death, come from?
Yeah, it's funny. So the idea for Belladonna, it came initially about 10-ish years ago, a long time ago. And it's had many different forms over the years of me trying to figure out exactly how I want to tell the story. And for a long time, I kind of fiddled with the idea of, do I want to have Death as the love interest? Do I want this romance with Death? Is that too cliche? And I kind of waffled around it for a while. But once the pandemic hit, and I was by myself with solitary confinement, I was like, you know what? The world is scary out there. I'm going to write exactly what I want and what I love without thinking of how everyone else is going to judge it, because especially this is going to be my third book out into the world. And I had that thought in my head of like, oh, are readers going to like this? Are they going to like this? Which kind of happens once you start putting more of your work out. And it's hard to shut off that voice. But once the pandemic hit, I was just like, this is for me. I have always loved stories with paranormal elements. I love kind of weird, creepy stories. And it just felt very fitting to have Death be the love interest. It just felt like fun to me.
Yeah, and I think it's. I just think also, given the genres that you're playing with, it's such a beautiful kind of central element to the story, because so often death is if death appears in a form is the bad guy or the villain or the nemesis, but this is kind of a different thing.
Yeah, it's fun because I wanted to create somebody who felt a little bit unique because Death is very heavily personified in media.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see what I could do that felt a little bit more nuanced and kind of the calmer, quiet side of Death, but he does still have that intensity. And his touch is lethal, but it's also he's very lonely because of who he is. And it's very much a story of these two lonely people who are very much alike in ways that they can't exactly get their minds around, meeting each other and kind of figuring out what to do from there. And for the longest time, Signa, the main character, is very resistant to how much she's drawn toward Death because he is, he's Death, he's the Grim Reaper, and that is bad. And she only wants one thing, which is to fit into society and to be this normal, regular girl, and make friends, especially since this is a Victorian inspired world. The tea parties, the debuting, that is all she wants out of life. But the more she gets into that, the more she starts to realize that it doesn't feel quite right to her. And this other side of things, where she is with Death and kind of drawn toward these spirits, that feels more normal to her. So she's struggling with that realization and trying to come to terms with that in her relationship with Death. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it really does sound like you had a lot of fun, and the book is a tremendous amount of fun. How did it? You mentioned about the pandemic. What were the circumstances of this narrative coming to you?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, I had the initial idea a long time ago, and then once I finished the All the Stars and Teeth duology and kind of sat down and was like, okay, well, what is next for me? I sorted through different ideas and just picked the one that I felt the most drawn to. And it was something with like that creepy edge and the dark romance. And I I outlined very, very heavily. So I was outlining Belladonna and just trying to figure out exactly how I want to tell it. And once I started that outline and I figured out who, who done it, because this is a murder mystery, I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I have to write this book. Like this is going to be so much fun. So I did it just for me. And then fortunately it ended up being my third book and all working out.
Yeah. No, that's lovely. And I was thinking specifically about was it your very sort of indelible characters who came first, or was it the overarching narrative, the who done it that was there something you specifically focused on as your way in when you were writing?
Yeah, Signa actually came first to me just because I knew that she could see spirits and she could see death. And there was this girl who was kind of quirky. She was a little bit weird and had some very unfortunate luck with all these people dying around her. And then from there, it was kind of like, oh, death seems very fitting in this world because, she has this kind of relationship, this tension with death. So he seems fitting. So I always knew that it was going to be Victorian. I knew that Signa was the main character. She did come first. And I was actually, when I first got the idea for it, I took a notebook and pen and I wrote out what is actually the prologue now. It is very, very similar to the final version. And that was what I saw first. And from there, I built the rest of the story around it. So I knew all these people had died. I knew that there was poison involved in this world. And I just had to figure out what happened next.
Yeah, right on. You mentioned before about Knives Out. Was that a movie that you enjoyed?
I did. Yeah, I didn't see that actually until I think I was in edits for Belladonna. Yeah, I absolutely love that movie, and I'm really excited for the second one too.
Me too. Yeah, Glass Onion. Can't wait. Great title as well.
Mhm.
I really love the theme of your title, and I guess it's not a big spoiler to say there's going to be further adventures for
Mhm.
Signa and Death. So what's the next? What can you tell me about the next book in the series?
Yes, the next one is Foxglove. I am super excited for it. I'm rounding the corner finishing it right now. We are working on edits. I'm super, super excited. I will say where Belladonna is one character's story alone, it's one point of view. Foxglove is not. Foxglove is two points of view. There is an additional character's point of view from it. I won't say who, just in case you haven't read Belladonna, and I don't want to spoil who lives and who dies. But there is an additional point of view, and they have been very, very fun to write. And I'm very much enjoying the book so far. And I want to say more, but I can't. I don't want to spoil anything.
I think that's very wise. Actually, I think a nice way into that overall theme would be to talk about now that you can look back on the All the Stars and Teeth duology. How do you feel about those two books, and how do you feel about the ride they took you on?
Yeah, it's so funny to me because I think once the pandemic hit, my brain just forgot everything that happened in the past. So Belladonna has felt like debuting all over again because when Stars and Teeth came out, it came out maybe 3 weeks before lockdown. So it's
Yeah,
like, cool, your dream is coming true. And now all the bookstores are shut down.
yeah,
Especially, I think that it came out in the UK during the pandemic as well. So it was a very kind of just unsettling time, and it was never how I envisioned everything happening. But at the same time, I was very lucky to have come out here in the states right before the pandemic, so I got to have some time face to face with readers before the shutdown, and that was very nice. I feel like that kept me going and making those like online connections and trying to do like online events, and that was the thing missing for the longest time during the pandemic was the face-to-face moments and actually knowing that readers are reading your book and getting to talk to them. That's the most exciting part I think of being an author, like just being able to talk about your book to somebody who has read it and you're like, "Oh, this thing I worked for years on, like it actually is getting read. Like people are actually enjoying it." And that is a very exciting thing that I was missing for the longest time. But now, having been able to venture back into the world, I'm starting to get to meet the people who have read All the Stars and Teeth and All the Tides of Fate. And that is very cool. It's still a very new, fresh thing, but it feels like these books that I wrote 3 years ago now are just now, like, I'm just now starting to kind of like reap the benefits of it where I'm getting to talk to readers about it.
Yeah, I mean, it must be a wonderful experience to get the chance to do that. To have people approach you about your work, to be able to chat with them, just just so marvelous.
It's my favorite thing ever. They're so cool. Like the readers are so cool. And you never know what part of your story they will gravitate toward. So I'll be, in a signing line and somebody will come up to me and say just the nicest, sweetest thing ever about like a single line I wrote that they really resonated with. And it's just like, oh, okay, like this is actually paying off. Like I'm making a difference to this person. And that is real. That's easily the best part of this job.
Yeah, no, I can see that. And finally, Adlin, what did it feel like when you had the actual cover designs for Belladonna in your hand?
Oh my gosh. I love the covers so much. Covers are like a hill I will die on. Unfortunately, I've never had to go to war over a cover before. I like everyone I've worked with has been so collaborative and so wonderful. I love the cover in the States. I absolutely adore the cover in the UK. It is like I am just super, super lucky. We're working on Foxglove's cover right now in the UK, and it is stunning. It is beautiful, and I feel like the cover gods have just blessed me because I have beautiful covers.
I completely agree with you. I think they're outstanding. And anybody who wants to check that beautiful UK cover for Belladonna out, the links to purchase Belladonna from forbiddenplanet.com are attached to the links attached underneath our conversation. And Adeline, it's a stellar piece of work. I can't wait for Foxglove, and I'll look forward to talking to you again, mate. It's thank you very much for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me. This was really fun and really nice to get to talk to you. All
Yeah, lovely to meet you. Take care of yourself.
right, you too. Thank you so much.
If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.